Okay. Hi, my name is Trang.
Hello, Kelly.
All right. So the purpose of this study, of my study, and this interview is trying to understand like the different interactions between students and their teachers in two different elementary schools that I did an observation at. Just the interaction between a school that has like a lower socioeconomic background compared to a school that has a higher socioeconomic background. So I went to elementary school, and I did my observation in the 7th grade class. So that's my study. So you're being asked to participate in an interview. The interview will take approximately 45 minutes. With your permission, the interview will be audio taped. The tape will be transcribed. Your name or other identifying information will not be included on the transcript. At the end of the research project, the audio tapes will be destroyed. Your participation is completely voluntary. You may stop participating in this research at any time or choose not to answer any question without penalty. Do I have your formal consent to conduct this interview?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so my first question is, how long have you been working with kids?
I have been working at HomeAway for about 8.5 years now.
Okay.
Prior to that, I was working with youth at a residential treatment center for children who had experienced severe trauma, and I did that for close to 4 years. And prior to that, I was also working with children, public school kids who came out for field trips to a nature center, so it was leading kids on hikes. So it's been in a variety of environments, but it's been for the last 15 years.
Oh, wow. And what's the age range of kids that you've been working with?
So pretty much 5 and up. I right now currently with the beach house program, 5 is the youngest we generally take on a beach house trip, and then as old as 17, 18.
Okay. Is there like an age that you feel most comfortable with, that you have more fun with?
Man, I really think they all have something to offer and something different. It's hard to say really which age group. I love the young kids. I'm really also, I learn a lot from our older kids, our high school kids. I really enjoy working with youth of all ages and really looking at the differences between them and the different dynamics that children develop with adults depending upon their age and developmental stage. So it's hard to pick a favorite. But I do work primarily with the younger kids at Beach House, which I really do love. So maybe if I had to choose, I would say the young ones for sure.
All right, great. What would you say, like, the kids that you've worked with in the past or at HomeAway, like, what kind of backgrounds, like family backgrounds, do they have in particular?
Well, I definitely have been working specifically with underserved population, at-risk youth, and for the last, I'd say for the last 12 years, and many of the kids had experienced very unstable family environments. Many of the children at the residential treatment center that I worked with were, came from backgrounds where there was extreme abuse, neglect, and, they so much so that they couldn't actually function in a normal home environment, whether it was their own family members who maybe might have been incapable of giving them the care they needed, or even in a foster care. They just hadn't developed the skills because of what had not been available to them. So that was definitely an extreme example. HomeAway children, a little different. Many of our kids have experienced absolutely being in transition, whether in shelters or doubled up with family members. But not all of them have the same. Some of them have, I'm sure, had a little bit more consistency and in their lives. But most of our kids, have been living with lots of mom and dads in dual family households, and are in a place in their life right now where there was just a little bit of instability with housing. But ultimately still had a really good family unit, but found themselves in a difficult financial situation, so that they needed the support that the shelter system provided. So that would generally be considered an underserved population.
Yeah.
But then, as you met all of our kids, and they're also totally normal in most respects. They're the same. You'd never quite pick them out if they're walking down the street. To know that they have experienced or are currently, under that homeless umbrella.
Yeah.
They have the same dreams and hopes and frustrations, and that really any child has.
Definitely. Yeah. Do you think the stuff that they go through in their personal life, with their status, like their living situation, or any of that stuff affects how they interact with people around them, like their peers?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, one of the things I've really recognized working at Home Away specifically is, and I mean in general in life, everyone has their own story, and there's many similarities and some overlap between our upbringings that many of our kids have experienced. Some of our kids have gone to many different elementary schools, moving around, which definitely impacts them academically. And also socially, some of our kids, I've had, definitely some of our kids that are uncomfortable with identifying as, as being homeless, quote homeless. And then there's other kids that are like, yeah, so what? I lived in a shelter, big deal. I'm not anymore, and it was what we needed. And they're very matter of fact, and they have a confidence around that they don't feel ashamed of. And I think that just has a lot to do with, of course, the situation at the time. And, a lot of our kids had, had family environments where there might have been issues with addiction or mental illness, and that contributed to, the inconsistency they really might have experienced. It's hard to say what. There's a lot of overlap, but there's a lot of very individual and unique stories as well. Yeah.
Is there any one child or kid that you've had experience with that was difficult for you, that you didn't know how to handle it, in a situation? Can you elaborate on any situation?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Well, the Beach House program is very different than the schoolhouse and youth leaders, which are, one of the main differences is, of course, that the Beach House is a respite and recreation program, so it's not academic focused. And so really, ultimately, what that means is that I see hundreds of kids throughout the year. I see a different group of kids every day because I visit a different shelter. Sometimes I see a group, kids throughout the shelter system pop up at one place, leave another. I go to a beach house trip and I see another. But for the most part, I don't have the opportunity to build the same kind of relationships that we do here at Schoolhouse and Youth Leaders, because these kids are here Monday through Wednesday. They do overnights with us. They just went to Tamales Bay this last week, which is great. Had a really good time. So there's so much more in-depth relationship that we get to build here with the kids who come here to Fort Mason. A lot more trust, that's developed, and a lot more insight as to really the situation that the family is currently experiencing and has in the past.
Yeah.
Because there's really a close link with the staff, with the school system, visiting, taking part in parent-teacher conferences, oftentimes standing in lieu of parents, for back-to-school nights and open houses.